We have a forum,
Yes, we do.
posting of agenda,
It's posted.
any announcements of any changes?
Well, we've added, although it's on the revised agenda, an MOU from the internal, and the environmental services report will be addressing that one.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Any public comments?
No comment?
None?
No.
And how about our consent calendar? Motion approved?
Motion to approve.
Second? Okay. I think you can do it.
Any opposition? Any abstentions?
Thank you. Action items.
You're here.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So we don't have to postpone this.
But I guess you might have to because I need to get set up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, so, let's see, well, first of all, while you're doing this, the next report is Ronson's, but I did want to make sure you all knew that we applied for a CalCOG, California Council of Governments Award. They have something called the Eureka Award for Regional Excellence. And we applied for that for the Functional Zero Street Homelessness Program and our Client Aid Program. And we were selected as a winner. There were 6 winners.
Bravo.
There's gonna be a special awards ceremony on March 5th in Sacramento where David and I will be there, but also Britt is apparently the president of the
Yay, Britt.
organization.
Coincidence?
Bravo, Brett.
So she will be there as.
Brett in the house.
So, did I give you enough time? No?
Almost. Yeah, I just need to register. and
What was the
join.
name of the grant again?
Mm.
Sorry, I read it.
Eureka Award
Eureka Award.
for Regional Excellence.
It's not really public yet. Right?
Okay.
They've told us to not really talk about it, but.
Oh. Too late.
Once
Never mind.
once we've been cleared, we'll be like.
The supervisor already knows.
Just
Just kidding.
All right.
And did they win for both of the programs or one or the other?
It says here, we're thrilled to inform you that your Functional Street Zero and Client Aid program have been selected.
Oh, and
Maybe you get 2 awards.
I don't think so. There were 18 applicants and there were 6 winners.
Thank you.
So
I'm pulling it up. Okay. Sharing my screen. Hey, homeless updates. We had some one anecdote I want to share on Client Aid. We had a El Segundo one this past week on Friday. Female with a broken down car. Starter not working. Actually El Segundo PD mechanic diagnosed it. Otherwise, we don't like to send cars to auto mechanics because then we end up with like a $2,000 bill, and so we typically don't do it. But since they diagnosed it, we agreed to pay for the starter. The towing company actually came and just towed the car for free, which was amazing.
Nice.
And yeah, and so the female agreed after all this to go to safe parking. And we're gonna pay the $600. So that was a nice thing. The police lieutenant in El Segundo actually did a great job. Put it on I think it's like a police card or something, a debit card or something like that. And so we're gonna reimburse them for that. We have our first time limit subsidy participant through the city of Torrance. This is a female who was out of the foster system, still pretty young. I think she's in her mid-20s. And then she recently got a job at LA Fitness at a kids club. And so we're gonna subsidize her rent for the time being so that she can stabilize and continue on her journey to self-sufficiency. So that's I believe she's gonna be moving in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll take some pictures and have a great, nice story to tell. So that's our first one, and we're working on another one as well. So that's coming along, our first time limited subsidy. And then the homeless count is next Thursday. So just want to make you all aware in case you want to stop by to your city's homeless count and say hi to the volunteers. That's always nice. Next big update, we have Measure A Local Solutions Fund. So this is the calendar right now. We're in the February-March timeframe where the board has just held its, the COHI has just held its information sessions and listening sessions They will now, and they presented it to the policy deputies last Thursday. They're gonna decide on final funding for the Measure A services part of it, which is Legacy Measure H. And then they also have to then decide on formulas on what to allocate to our cities and COGs. So that discussion is still to be had. Once we get the allocation, then we're gonna have to really quickly turn it around and create like an SLW of the county, and then we can start implementing Measure A funding. We think we're gonna get roughly anywhere between $2.4 to $3 million of Measure A funding to be distributed amongst our 16 cities and unincorporated areas. This is an increase from $2.2 million annually that we've been getting. So we're still working in the works with the San Gabriel Valley COG and Gateway COG to prepare a joint letter. We think one of the scenarios is advantageous to us. It's the one that we would get like $3 million. And so we'll continue advocacy there. Other things we're advocating for in terms of Measure A, there's a lot in there, but the top three headlines are, of course, more funding for our cities. And we think we can get that funding by streamlining LAHSA. So, when you have more money in cities, you got to take it from somewhere else. We want to take it from the LAHSA bucket. Restored funding for LA County Homeless Court. Not the beach cities homeless court, but they're taking money out of the LA County Homeless Court. We think that's important because we are seeing more cities enforce due to the Supreme Court ruling, issuing more citations, more arrests. And then when they get out of jail, they're gonna need some help clearing that background, or else they're not gonna get a job, they're not gonna get housing because they won't be able to pass background check. And so we think defunding the LA County Homeless Court is a mistake because of that. And so we were encouraging the county to reinstate those funds. And then one other issue, and we'll be bringing this up with the county today, is that La Casa, the other part of Measure A, which is the housing part of it, is now in charge of prevention dollars, which is rental subsidies for the most part, and also eviction court proceedings and things like that. But what La Casa is not ready to execute on that yet. And we serve on La Casa, so we kind of know. But right now, the COHI's plan has the handoff of that prevention services to La Casa, and they're not ready. So we think there might be a gap in services. So one of the things that we're trying to advocate for is that maybe there could be a slower handoff to La Casa. Maybe the county LAHSA still contains some of the prevention stuff. So anyways, that's a little bit in the weeds, but it's something that's important, I think.
Bronson?
Yeah.
The thing that I commented on this because La Casa doesn't have caseworkers. And doesn't prevention need caseworkers? So handing it off in the first place has some problems, it seems to me.
Yeah.
And so we ought to
Yeah.
have that discussion.
One workaround is giving the money to us, and then we have caseworkers, so we can then distribute it to our caseworkers. So
Or is
Yeah.
that what they're getting ready for? Is that part of their plan to get?
we're having a meeting actually on Thursday with the CASA to kind of talk about what that plan could potentially look like. So it's all in the works. A lot of this
But
is
that's
just,
what you're
yeah.
referring to. And
It's only
if they're not being ready, they don't have the caseworkers needed.
Yeah, they don't have the case. I mean, right now, La Casa doesn't even have an HR person. So they're really just building out.
There's just the executive director right now. He's all by himself. I invited him to come to our next meeting. And he's really all alone. And so for them to staff up. And then to get caseworkers, when LAHSA already has caseworkers, there's something wrong. You might want to tell the supervisor, there's something wrong with that. You're gonna take.
Yeah, we're kind of a little playing catch up at La Casa, which, okay, so, and then this is the last slide, but this is our current programs. So we've grown quite a bit, and this is the program cost annualized. So on an annualized basis, we're running at about $3.3 million. So remember we're looking to get $3 million. So I mean, we'll have to find places to cut and to accommodate any new programs. But I'm a finance guy, so I can work some financial magic and get more programs in here. I have to. But the action step for you all is to go back to your cities and figure out if there's anything else you would like us to fund within your cities. For example, I think Hawthorne could probably use some additional help at their access center. So I'm planning on adding more help at Hawthorne. But if there's anything else you guys may need, just let me know and then we'll figure something out with our Measure A funding.
But Ronson, if you're a finance guy, we've been getting 2 point whatever. So you're doing this on carryover funds, right?
Carryover. And then, like I said, hopefully the supervisors will pick a good scenario for us and then we will get $3 million. And then we can figure out something else out with the gap that we have there. But yeah. All right, so the homework is just, talk with your staff, see if there's any homeless services, shelters, anything, outreach workers, anything you guys need help with funding, let me know, and then we can figure something out.
And I did invite Paige Color Direct to come. And she's going to be coming to the board meeting on February 27th. February 20th is a homeless count. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So
What action do we?
I just have down here providing direction. I assume that going after scenario 4, the one we're going after, working with Gateway and San Gabriel is the way you want to go.
Yeah. Good job, Doctor.
So we can go into the legislative matrix. David, do you want to?
David?
Yes, there's one bill in there that we are recommending. We're recommending a support for 259, sorry, 259. And this would eliminate the January 1st sunset date of the AB 2449 rules that we currently have. So that would allow you to join virtually in if you're sick or if you're traveling on state business. There's currently a sunset of January 1st, 2026, and this bill would lift that indefinitely. And then we're monitoring a new bill, SB 220, from Senator Allen, which is a bill. There's no language in it yet, but it states the legislature's intent to at some point modernize the Metro board membership. This is most directly tied to the measure that was passed in November, expanding the board of supervisors. Until there's more detail in the legislation, that we're just going to monitor it. But I think we want to make sure that we're not losing representation in whatever's being.
What's that again?
This is potentially really important
SB 220.
because right now, don't listen, Jesselyn, all the supervisors have a position on the Metro board. If it expands to 9, then if we just say all supervisors get a position, cities are going to be way outvoted. So how this bill is written and what it says and what it does is really important. And we're going to have to follow it.
Good.
The other thing I have down here is Ann or Ed, do you want to talk about the Marisucci meeting? Oh, yeah, we need action. I'm
On the
sorry.
matrix. Or questions if there's any.
Yeah, questions on the matrix or action,
Any questions, Matrix?
anything up? Do we have a motion on 259?
Need a motion on AB 259.
To support.
Second.
Got that?
Any opposition? Any abstentions?
And this is the time for you to let us know if there's some other bill that you've seen at your city or somewhere else that we should be monitoring. So please let us know.
I have to say though, on that bill, it's amazing that as far as they're willing to push the boundaries of this thing is just extending the sunset on it.
I know,
Not that any of it applies to them.
right. Okay, so can you talk about the Marisucci meeting?
Last week, we met with 2 staffers from our Suchi's office to discuss e-bike safety and possible legislation. 2 main takeaways from the meeting was they're thinking of hosting a town hall for e-bike and e-bike safety. And March 22nd,
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, March twenty-second in Redondo Beach. This is early planning, but they want to have panels on e-bike legislation, e-bike safety, as well as bringing resources such as the COG and the safety programs within the South Bay. Additionally, they're exploring bringing legislation either based off of education or enforcement. It's looking like it's leaning more towards enforcement, specifically when it comes to the different classes of e-bikes and what people legally ride, counting vehicles that are illegal for the said rider. We gave them updates regarding our LTN, the SS4A grant, and how we can continue to work together. We'll give you more information on the town hall as we continue to get it, and this legislation, it seems they're in the very preliminary stages.
Okay, next is our next legislative briefing is April 10th. That's the normal time we always meet. I did look and the legislature is in session. It doesn't mean that they won't come, but there's a chance they won't come. We could change you to April 11th or Thursday, April 17th, when they're not in session, which is also when they take trips, they might not come. So it's up to you if you want to continue with April 10th, April 11th, or Thursday, April 17th. Anybody have any opinion?
Any discussion about that?
This April 11th, Good Friday.
Yeah, April 11th is Friday,
It might be Good Friday though. That makes a difference.
might be,
I don't think,
that might not count for April.
Is not.
it's not Good Friday, okay. So does anybody have an opinion?
I mean, there's no guarantee, just like all other meet and greets that an actual representative will be there, other than maybe their field reps or something. But I think what the one thing that's important for us though is getting the question we want answered. So if there's stuff that we need to put out there to have questions answered, we should probably have it. And the date would be up to us, but I think the question portion of it, to get those answers is what. So we'll take suggestions on whenever or keep it the way it is.
You mean as opposed to changing the date?
Right.
You want to keep the same date then?
Same date?
I would. think so.
Okay.
How about you guys?
Yeah, here, no,
Oh,
we'll just keep it the same day.
Okay,
But we do need your questions, so when Jackie and the staff send that out for what you want to know, get those in because we'll make them answer those.
great, thank you. Okay, board meeting agenda. We're already ahead. On the board meeting, we're gonna have, let's see what I have. We have Paige coming, as I mentioned. We also have Harold Williams. I don't know if you've all heard this, but Harold Williams has resigned from the West Basin Board.
Oh.
He served for many, many years. And so we wanted to have a recognition for him. West Basin will come. Harold apparently will not come. There's been some confusion as to whether he resigned over health reasons or not. I've heard both, that he can't come because of health. And then I've heard from somebody else that he said, no, there's no thing with my health. So I have no idea, but he's not coming.
He's just very private behind, but
Yes,
was some health concerns. And he's just not going to be seen at this. I put it that way.
Harold was also the Public Works Director in Carson.
Yeah.
And Hermosa
Hermosa
Beach,
Beach, yeah.
and a council member in Carson.
right.
So, and my mentor long ago, a really good guy.
I'm
Is it good?
service. Well, and he said to me that he felt he wanted to resign because he could not serve his constituents at the level that he was used to.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of time and energy to host these tours of the various West Basin facilities. And so I think that's a big factor. It's not so much like, gosh, he's got some major health problem, but he does have to limit himself. So, I mean, I really
Challenges.
respect the fact that.
I just say it's challenges that we all get when we get to a certain age. So I'm just saying it that way, that he knew the forethought to actually know that, you know, at this point in time, for me to be as effective as I want to be, I can't be it, as opposed to, he doesn't want anyone to think less than, so he wanted to make sure he left on his own accord.
Yeah.
So David and I are gonna work on a certificate of appreciation, and we should put in all of his service to the CPA. But we're also getting him, we don't do this for everybody, but we're getting him a pen set, you know, one of our pen sets. Because he has served for so long in the South Bay. So they at the meeting, and
But you're saying he
he
cannot.
will not be there, but West Basin is sending staff that will be here.
Fine.
No.
So that, and also at the meeting, we're gonna be having, we're gonna hear today the mid-year budget. So we're gonna be hopefully recommending mid-year budget to be approved. The Transportation Committee today approved Measure M MSP policies and Measure our annual program. That will be on the agenda as well. In April, we're having an update on Measure A, and I'm hoping that we're gonna be having someone, either Ryan Johnson or some other people from Measure A come and talk about where we are with all of these funding mechanisms. And then I'd like David, we're gonna feature David, who is,
Not featured enough already.
I know. David has been going for the last year to CalCOG's Leadership Academy.
Oh.
I can't, and he's graduating March 6th or something like that. Yeah, in Sacramento, and I'm gonna be there, and Britt's gonna be there.
A grad night,
Grad?
have a grad night thing, go to Disney.
Kind of you at the railroad.
Have a big.
Oh, now that's cool. That is way cool.
So, do I go to that? No.
Yeah.
I go to that? Okay. Okay, so anyway, so we're gonna be, so David has been a year going to these academy meetings, all.
It feels like a year. It's been since September.
Oh, since September, it seems like a year.
It does feel like a year.
Anyway, and I thought we've been sending him off to these sessions. And I thought he'd give us a little review of what happens at those leadership academies, what he's learned, and how he's gonna make the COG even better than it is. So that's.
Well,
that.
it would be really helpful for our city council people to know that, because I mean, it's a great program for our city city staffers also. And, you know, as David and I were talking, it just, you know, it's a statewide program, what did you say, about 35 people in your class? And so, and it's such a great opportunity for our staff people to network around the state and just have people they can pick up the phone and call if they've got a similar problem and so forth. So they'd be very valuable.
Yeah. Nice. So that's April. And then I don't have actually anything specifically slated in after April. So we have, I've invited Ryan Johnson from La Casa. I have not yet invited Nathan Hoffman, but I will. So if you have any other speakers that you definitely want to hear from, please let me know.
What's the status of Mayor Bass?
Oh, she didn't come when she couldn't. I haven't re-upped that invitation. Do you want me to invite Mayor Bass again?
Well, I guess it's not in the real world, but it wouldn't hurt to ask.
She's got her hands full.
Yeah, she's really
Yeah.
busy. Now that she was
It doesn't
before.
hurt to ask.
Yeah.
We get put in the bottom of the pile.
Is that it? So should I?
Never hurts.
Okay.
I think, is it this week she's doing her luncheon for mayors? And
I never know those.
any mayors here that got invited to for
How often
lunch?
does she do that?
Well, every year, I know the year I was mayor, she invited us, you know,
Yeah,
to,
it's really interesting.
you went
That's good.
also, yeah, you know, down to her headquarters there,
To what are they,
Getty House.
Getty House. Thank you.
Yeah, which was.
We got to see her
fabulous.
extensive wine cellar. It had like 3 bottles of wine in it. She said, I'm not much of a drinker.
But it, you know, we got a tour of it and everything.
The house is fascinating, the history of it and everything. But it was also just a great conversation. You know, and she was not at all pretentious about it. And it was with Janice Hahn.
Janice kind of arranged it. They were office next door to each other when they were in Congress together. So
Oh,
good buddies.
I wonder if there's, you know, maybe if she could do that for our board. I mean, instead of inviting her to a board meeting, maybe we should ask
She
her.
can
if
invite
somebody-
us.
She can invite us to come there. Maybe people would want to come.
Would hurt.
Because it's this thing this week is I got the Cerrito Performing Arts or something, so doesn't really compare to Getty House.
Yeah, okay.
That would hurt.
And then I have, we're gonna be doing, we didn't set a date for the Harvard UCLA tour of the facilities. You all said you might be interested. I figured we'd set the date after the General Assembly. If that's okay with everybody. There's also the sanitation district water treatment plant and also waves, Sea Wave project, but I thought we'd start with Harvard UCLA. Okay, if there's nothing else on board ideas, please send me any other ideas you have for the board. So then we'll go into mid-year budget.
Okay, and Laura's gonna present the mid-year budget in PowerPoint form, but you have the actual document in your packet. David is gonna run the audio visual. Okay, Laura, go ahead.
All right. So for our first slide, we just have a comparison between what was already adopted and approved for the fiscal year, and next to it is what we are proposing for the mid-year budget. There has been increases in both revenue and expenditures almost equally, so 6% of an increase when it comes to revenues. We have about a 4.3% of an increase when it comes to expenditures. If you go to the next slide, please, we'll actually detail for you what those increases are. This is just a chart, just to a reminder again, I know you're already familiar that on the left side for our revenue, that it's compromised out of 88% of our grants or contracts. So basically pass-throughs and programs that we implement. Followed by that is 7% that is coming from our dues. And then the last category would be 5% coming from other general fund reserves. On the right side for our expenditures, most of that seems to be compromised for 38%, which is basically professional or contractual. Those are basically contracts for us to implement the work. So the 88% on the left side, 38% of our expenditures are going to actually implement that kind of work. And then it's followed by 35% of supplies and services for our staff, our office, implementing the programs. And last but not least is 27% for salaries and benefits. For the revenues, we wanted to detail here what actually contributed to the variances and increases that we just went over in the summary slide. The first thing is that we received more interest income from LAIF, which is actually an investment where we have the programs that we implement. This money is not ours, but we do earn interest that we keep for ourselves. So we actually earned interest more than we had budgeted. We're always conservative with our estimate, so that was more than we had anticipated. The second reason is Metro REAP 2.0. That project has come in now, and we are anticipating spending or billing up to 51,200 for that in the rest of this fiscal year, the next 4 months, basically. The third reason is for SCAG REAP 2.0, which has been on hold and delayed, and we're still trying to finalize that contract. But we are anticipating to spend 107,000 of this funding in the next 4 months, especially because we hired a consultant to help us implement this work. And then the one before last is basically a decarbonization residential direct install grant. This is new, and it's new funding from LA County that we're anticipating spending 25,700 in the rest of this fiscal year. And last but not least, we did have an increased spending because of program activity, most of it with ITC, the issue with that. So we did spend more than we had anticipated. So we had to continue to anticipate more as the year unfolds. For next, we have, I think, expenditures and what the 4.3% comes from. The first one is we actually had a decrease. So we have a decrease due to changes in staffing. That was a negative of 128,000. And then the next was actually an increase of 13% because of our contractual services, consultants and contractors that we get into an MOU with to basically implement our work. And that was about a 307,000 increase. And then lastly, we just wanted to budget for what you had approved for us to go and look into. It just penciled in under possible moving expenses. We did budget not just the 75,000 that was approved, but also some of the expenses that might be involved, which would be first and last month's rent or security deposit. So that's what that 23,000 is, plus the 75 that's already built into our budget. And this again is just penciled in. We may spend it, we may not, but we did factor for that as well. And next, we just have also for you to anticipate in the next 4 months left in the fiscal year or so. We do have several contracts that will be starting, some of the ones detailed in the previous slides. One of them is Metro Read 2.0, that is our mobility hub project. SCAG Read 2.0 already implemented. 1.0, which is more research. This one is the implementation phase of that project. And last but not least is the LA County Decarbonization Residential Direct Install Project, and that's for a contract for LA County. And we also have some grants that we have already been either awarded for, and we have a letter that gives us permission to start, or an actual award, or some that are pending and we had applied for, but we only include the ones here that we anticipate we will pretty much almost, 80% we might actually get. The first one is the Caltrans Adaptation Project. We have about 350,000 that we might get. And again, these are not factored in our budget. These are just possibilities that we're anticipating. The second one is Caltrans Sustainability Planning, and we may be getting 399,000 for that. And then lastly, this one we were actually awarded for, but federal grant, the federal release of funds is pending on that one, but we were awarded 400,000 for the Safe Streets for All grant, and this is federal funding. So we'll have to, maneuver how we can accept that, because we don't have a lot of federal funding that we administer. But that's pretty much the recap for our budget. Not a lot of changes.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so, Laura, I have one correction to that. So the top two bullets, the Caltrans, those were just submitted. We don't know, Laura was saying 80% chance that we get them. We have no idea if we're gonna get those. But the 400,000 we actually have received, we just don't know if they're gonna actually fund it. So,
That's what
so it's a mix of,
It's up in the air.
yeah. So those are all.
Thank
but
you for
we want to
clarifying that.
know, like, what we're working on and what the horizon might look like.
With all that being stated, that means that what we do have in hand, we are within budgets on our expenditures.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, we only have secured funding in our actual budget that is on contract, fully executed. Yes, and thank you for clarifying, Kim. Yes, not all of these are like an 80% possibility. Some are up in the air, and some we just have an award letter and don't even know when the work will be initiated. But that pretty much recaps all of our changes that we've had since adopted to now mid-year. And we'll also present you with our fiscal year 25-26 budget in May. So that's coming up as well, where some of this will all be finalized by then.
Thank you so much. Do you have questions?
Questions?
Is that the one?
It certainly looks positive.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the most important thing that we need to throw in people's faces is those pie charts showing where the money comes from. So, anyway, they just don't get it.
Okay, thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Need a little action on this to move
Yeah,
it.
we need to recommend it to the board.
So I need a motion to move this on for recommendation to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Any abstention?
Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work.
Next is invoices.
Everybody see the bills?
Second?
Okay,
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Oh, did you sign the first one? Because the first one didn't have your signature on it.
didn't you? I'm always good about giving money away.
The first one and the last one. You used to do that to me all the time.
Payback, man.
Okay, so
Okay,
next is South Bay Fiber Network. And none of you have said, oh my gosh, why aren't we approving the fiber network?
why are we moving it?
Yeah,
What's wrong?
well, it turns out that even we were affected by the fires. And so the negotiations have been slowed a little bit because of one of the principals is involved in fire scares. So we're hoping we're gonna get this to you. It's not stopping our work with the proposed new owner. Should you approve of this new owner, we think we're gonna be recommending that you do, but two things are going on. One is that I have a letter from our lawyer that I'm gonna be sending both the old owner and the current owner and the proposed new owner, saying that these, it seems to me they don't understand exactly what we need to approve sale, and we do need to approve it. So this letter is from the lawyers saying, here's what we need. Make it very clear to them, they gotta figure this out. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that Jake and Wally and I are going to meetings with the proposed new owner to, number one, Jake, well, Jake, why don't you say, have you done city meetings and things like that? What have you been doing?
Assessments?
Yeah, why don't you?
So I've been, along with the head of the fiber networks for RSG Telecom, which is the owner, we've been meeting with cities to conduct essentially needs assessments. What is their experience on race? What is their current, issues with the SBFN? As well as, city projects that would play into it, like there's a broadband master plan. We made it through about 11 cities. And, once this all accumulates, or ends, it'll accumulate in the expansion plan of the network. It's based off what the cities need and what they already have and their concerns around it, how we can then build out the network to meet those needs.
Great. Then Wally, did you want to say anything about, you don't want to say anything about this. We have a meeting coming up. I'll just mention it. We have a meeting coming up about kinds of things that the owner might want to do for economic development in the South Bay. So, you
As
know,
well as senior healthcare.
and senior healthcare. So to sort of hit the ground running on the kinds of things they might be able to provide on the platform that we're creating.
Yeah, two things. One is we did hear from the county that our competitive grant to NTIA, which was $1.6 million, is permanently on hold because of the Trump administration.
It is definitely a DEI grant.
Well, it's digital equity.
So it's
The
permanent.
keyword being equity.
Yeah, but it's,
And we don't stand for equity anymore, so we're changing that. We're looking at for concentration of wealth. We're gonna come back in. We're committed to making the rich richer, just so you know.
so it's definitely on hold, huh?
That's easy to do. The second one is that we have a capacity grant coming up through the state, California Department of Technology. And that's what Jackie and Jake are referring to. We're working with the new ownership on some innovations. And I'll talk about it more once they've assured me, the new owners, that it's technically and financially feasible, but they're pretty interesting things. But let's leave it at that for now. We have to kind of understand what they have to understand what we're talking about. We have to understand what they can do.
Yeah, so it's, we legally have to understand the sale, you legally have to approve. But as you can see, the new owner is serious and is moving forward with all of, 11 city meetings, all these things. So they're pretty serious. And we'll keep you aware of what's going on. Oh, didn't we mention it last time? March 19th, did I tell you that March 19th, we were invited to an is it LA deal?
LAEDC.
LAEDC is having an 88 city summit. I thought I did mention it because
Sounds familiar.
I wanted to send you an invitation. There's no invitation out yet.
It's in Torrance.
It's in Torrance, right? And it's March 19th and we have a panel and it's going to be it is going to be a breakout session. There's a couple of breakout sessions and we have a panel of me and Wally and our new owner and Mark Henry.
It's about economic development,
Mark-
building the digital economy, because we grasped the concepts coming out of.
Right. And they definitely wanted a city perspective and Mark has just been wonderful about working with us. So Mark's going to be our city council member. March 19th, yeah. So we'll send out more once we know, we don't have an invitation yet. Okay, so thank you, Jake. Okay, so then the next thing is REAP. And on the housing trust feasibility study, there is like a little glitch. And that is that what's happened is I asked people to serve. And for example, I'll take Gardena. We have both Rodney and we have Clint, the city manager, who also said he'd serve. But then he suggested that I also invite the planning director. The consultant wants like one person. They get too big. So we have to figure out, we definitely want council members, we definitely want, community development directors, and we definitely want city managers. So we have to do something about the duplicates on the committee.
Well, if it's anything, I would rather have Mike Clint do it because one, he's financially
Yeah. Yeah.
super smart.
But we definitely need elected officials, and at this point, we have Bill Uphoff, Rodney, and Debbie Stugura. So there's only 3 elected officials, so it's a little bit, if anybody else is interested. We're gonna have to sort this out. We have the same issue in Rancho Palos Verdes. We have the same issue in, I think, Lomita, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so that's part of what's going on. But I wanted to also mention, for those of you that asked me to contact Stacy Armato, she's very interested in serving, and our
Serving on this trust.
serving on this committee to sort of, it's an advisory committee for the
Mhm.
trust. And so she is going to be under the investor category. I sent her resume to our consultant, and he was very impressed and thought she'll be a good member of the committee. So she's agreed to serve. And then I got something back from him that we didn't have representation, which he wanted, from Carson and Inglewood, because they've done a lot of housing. So I contacted Carson and Inglewood, and Carson has added Said, your community development director, and Inglewood is in the process of helping me out. They're gonna probably send somebody. So the committee is very large with some duplicates. And the only deficit is really gonna be you guys, the elected officials, but we might start off with this and maybe add you. So that's where we are. And we have a meeting tomorrow with the consultant to talk about take off and probably figure out what to do about this committee. On commercial redevelopment, our participating cities are Carson, Hawthorne, and Torrance. And our next step will be to prepare an RFP.
Jackie, there's one on the hill. I forget which one.
It would have to be Rolling Hills Estates.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so it's, thank you. I didn't have that down.
Yeah.
So it's Rolling Hills Estates, because I know your city's been really interested in this. And then, so we're gonna get a consultant as the next step. And then we have micro mobility hubs, which are still doing a literature review. And Wally, do you want to add anything else?
No, we've got some good data that we're working on, and we've got case studies from around the country, working on use cases. But basically, this is about a place where you can take a short range car and get something that's a long range service, whether it's a bus or a rail or an Uber or a Lyft or a rental car. It's mobility hubs are where you change mode to suit a purpose of your trip.
So now I would like you to, I have a special thing I want to add right here under this section. In light of the fires, we've all been sort of reassessing everything and what's going on and how where we fit into all of this. And Wally has done a presentation that's very short, but I think very impactful, that fits in here about where we're going with our program. So I wanted Wally to do this and maybe occasionally, come on to our agendas and talk about some of how we fit into the picture here. So Wally, want to take it away?
Right. Well, the fires, as you all know, has generated a ton of finger pointing. And it's not like every finger doesn't have a point. And so, but I wanted to take a look through the lens of costs and see and there's a lot of data that have come out now. So this is all data driven. So let's go on to the next one, David. So what we know is that there has been an increase in temperature for 200 years, ever since industrialization started. And so it's been gradually for 200 years. So what? Okay, so what? Well, the so what is that when you heat something up, it messes with the weather. And it messes with the weather in very specific ways, that weather events become more extreme. And that means, like, for example, when it rains, it really rains. When there's a drought, there's really a drought. If it's cold, it's really cold. Really extreme weather events. And they last longer than they ever have in the past. And they occur more frequently in more places. So these are just verifiable facts, and just to lay a background to this. And in that case, that we also know that the heat's been increasing faster since the mid-1990s. I'll talk about that in a second. But the 2024 average was the highest in recorded history globally, and January 25 was the highest hottest January in recorded history. David, go on. So this is kind of personal for me. I wanted to just indulge myself for a second. I was a student at UCLA in the Bel Air fire of 1961. And I watched it from you all know the campus, UCLA, the top of Jan Steps, which is outside Royce Hall. And the bottom picture is about what I saw. I actually watched Bel Air on fire. I could see the flames at the ridge and I could see the water bombs. The picture above that is Roscommere Road. And I lived in the valley at the time. And I used to take Roscommere Road to connecting to Bellagio Road, which is on the left. And so I personally experienced it in a funny sort of way, although my house didn't get burned or anything like it. It also was very high profile because celebrities like Kim Novak and Fred McMurray were in they had to water down their house and they lost it and all this kind of thing. So this I want to use as the baseline of the discussion going forward. David, go ahead. So what we know is that it was about 6,000 acres. There were right around 500 houses that were destroyed. And by the way, it's not like there weren't fires all through history in California. I mean, there's fires here. I got it. But this one was especially extreme for the time, 1961. Almost 500 homes destroyed, as I said, a lot of the celebrities. And it cost in today's dollars, $265 million of damage. No one died, fortunately. And it lasted less than 2 days. It may even been 1 day. And it had a lot to do with the Santa Ana winds, which we don't know. The literature doesn't tell me what the wind speed was at the time, but Wikipedia tells me that it averages roughly 7 miles an hour per season. And if it's a bad day and there's gusts of 60 miles an hour in some of the canyons. So somewhere in that range is what we could figure out what was going on in Bel Air in 1961. And the reason that they contained it so fast was that the winds died down. But this is the baseline we're going to use. Now, taking a look at the Palisades Eaton Canyon fires of January, there were 6 to 7 times broader, more acres and square miles burned, 28 times more structures. It cost 1,000 times more damage, 275 billion, high estimate. 24 people died. It took 2 weeks, so it was 7 times longer at least than the Bel Air fire, which was the previous extreme fire of high profile. And we know that the Santa Ana winds were over 100 miles per hour sustained. So this redefines what extreme is. And when I said that the heating of the environment causes more extreme more frequently and it lasts longer, here we can see the 60-year difference between what was extreme in 1961 and now we're considering extreme right now. David, go on. And to put this in sort of a context, this fire caused more damage than the entire state of California in 2020. And it was more than Hurricane Helene in the east, which cost only 250 billion as opposed to 275 billion. And California has a distinction of having the most expensive wildfires in US history. And we all remember Mendocino, Camp Fire, Woolsey, and all those combined only cost $30 billion of damage. So what we're looking at here is a massive impact compared to anything that's considered extreme before. Okay, next. Now, what's interesting about this, because as we say from the global heating, from the heating the environment, things happen more frequently. So within a week, maybe 10 days of the Palisades, the hurricane fires, there were atmospheric rivers in Northern California and Oregon that dumped unbelievable loads of rain on those areas. And that causes mudslides and all kinds of havoc, disrupts air travel, disrupts ground traffic. There was a so-called polar vortex across the Midwest and the Eastern US. And the picture is actually from New Hampshire, and it shows you what dense snow looks like. The visibility was very, very close to zero. And it turns out that the coast of Florida, of all places, had the beaches in the coast of Florida had 3 inches of snow on them and never snowed before. So that's the kind of stuff we're looking at here when the environment heats up. Oh, and I threw this one in. I liked it. 4 feet of snow in 1 day in northern Japan. There's pictures of these guys trying to shovel out of 4 feet of snow. It's pretty interesting. Okay, go on, Dave. Okay, so these are now a discussion of the cost to consumers. That's not to say, this is not the cost to people who lost homes. This is the cost to the rest of us in society who are just are going to be impacted by these kinds of things that go on. So food costs are projected, there's only 4 categories. There's like 12 of these categories, but I didn't want to, you get the point. Food's going to be more expensive and for obvious reasons. And if anybody wants to talk about it, I can point out why the heat impacts the food supply chain. They're talking about 30–50% within 10 years. Taxes, of course, are going to go up. I mean, who pays for this? There was, I missed it. I didn't call it out on the previous slide, but I think the damage to the infrastructure alone and was like, what, 850 million, wasn't it?
10-15.
Really expensive. So taxes have to be raised to pay for that. And I know at the extreme edge, it seems a little maybe not feasible, but the military is gearing up for global disruptions because of water and food wars that they're expecting armed conflict in sometime in the next 10 years. This is going to get very severe.
And they've been doing hardening of facilities, raising things and such for over 20 years. And that's not stopping. So, I mean, they recognize this is the reality, whether folks want to go along with it or not. But
Barry's right. We've been on it, but not apparently effectively enough.
yeah.
So insurance, as we can imagine, there's maybe a $50 billion payout of and as you know, in places in Florida, you can't even get insurance anymore because of the hurricane threat at any price. And I'll just say before the fires, my home insurance went up 10% last year, just all on its own, because the insurance companies are really buckling. So we can all expect to pay more. And then there's one paper I got research that said that property value, they're talking about $1.5 trillion net property losses in the next 30 years, having to do with high cost of insurance and changes in consumer location, because everybody's trying to get out of the way of these terrible environmental weather, extreme weather. Okay, so it turns out there's a study that says the cost of extreme weather globally in a 20-year period was almost $3 trillion, which comes down to $16 million an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Globally. And my sort of observation, I would say, it's an editorial, but this is not sustainable. Society cannot sustain these costs and remain the kind of society that we all grown up with. And the bad news is, really bad news, is that the temperatures are, since 1995, roughly, are increasing faster than they ever have before. And you can see in the graph on the right, that is a tracking of the blue line is the average temperature globally, and the red line is the carbon dioxide that's in the air. So they track really closely. And if you want to talk about the causal connection between them, I can do that another time. Go ahead, Dave. So this is a really terrific, I like this a lot. It's a map, a graph. Where the top one shows the long range, the long-term 125-year history of the rate of heating. The bottom one is just the last 30 years. And you can see that this last 30 years, in 1995 on, has been disastrous. And what's happening is that the condition is worsening. And I think this is why policymakers are confused. It's worsening faster than it ever has in the history of this stuff. And it also suggests really, really rapid response to these things. One of my favorite targets is Caltrans, who takes them, they have sustainability grants. It takes them 1 year after they've announced it to give out the money. And it's like, you guys aren't getting it. It's really, really urgent. Pick up the pace. All right, go to the next one. This is the last one. So the conclusion is bringing it home. And Jackie said, putting the pieces together when we talked about this, and that's what we're going to try and do. We have a sustainability strategy. And we do the strategic work, and you guys, the cities, do the implementation. And so it's a land use transportation strategy. And we're looking at obviously getting zero emission, low energy consumption. The level of consumption of energy consumption is very important, because if you don't keep it low, like if you're driving a Tesla, I have another presentation I can do on this. If you're driving a Tesla, yeah, it may be zero emission, but you're using way too much electricity at the generation side, which means you're going to be on fossil fuels to get where you're going. So when we try, and we do obviously energy and water conservation through the Environmental Services Center. So when we talk to you about the micromobility strategy, and we talk about e-bike safety, when we're talking about the local travel network, and it's sort of slow on uptake. We're gonna be talking to you about micromobility hubs, which I discussed in the previous. When there's slow uptake among the cities, there's a direct line between what these initiatives are and the fires in the Palisades. So you can say, let's not build in the hills. You can say Bass was out of town. The underlying thing here is if the environment wasn't heating to the extent that it is, it wouldn't have been as extreme, and it would have happened, but it wouldn't have been as extreme. It wouldn't have lasted as long and so forth. So what we're talking about when we're talking about these micromobility strategy initiatives, we're talking about you taking it seriously and going forward with it as fast as you possibly can. And then we have the development pattern, which is the complement to that. We're talking about 15-minute neighborhoods. We're talking about the internet so that we can have internet access in your cities. Every one of you should have, every public place should have Wi-Fi outside for internet, because the digital economy is a way we can cut down on traffic demand, and that gets into the South Bay fiber network. So the bottom line to all this is we want to increase proximity between home and destinations. We want to make things that where you're going to be really close together. And we want you to drive only what you need, which is you don't drive a Tesla to go to the 7-Eleven. So that's what we're trying to do is the
What
cost.
if the neighbors see you driving something else?
All the better.
Shocking.
And obviously what we do in the South Bay isn't going to change global trends, but this is also a demonstration. We know that we want to get Van Allen to pay attention. We want to get Newsom's administration, although they're build, baby, build, but we're trying to do a demonstration here that can be replicated and have a bigger impact than just we are doing. But when the cities don't implement stuff, that's not much of a demonstration. So this is my pitch to connecting these dots. Try your best to do this when it comes in front of you. Questions?
Comments? Anything?
So is this going to be available on our website?
Actually going to keep it to myself, and I think
No, it'll be in this meeting notes, but also maybe we can put it, if we have a client.
Well,
page,
because
put it
I
there.
just remember, it was like a year ago, or maybe it was before COVID, you did a similar thing, and I just remember thinking, wow, we've got to do something now. But I think we have to get that message out.
thanks, Brett. You're the only person I know with a memory of these things. I don't even remember it, so thank you.
Oh,
No, it's a
it emphasizes the urgency. And one of the things in terms of cost to the consumer, the air quality and the smoke that just, permeates long distances. I mean, that's a real biggie.
well, and getting rid of the charred remains, which has become a big political issue.
And I was given a tour of the Eaton fire by a sheriff, and the sheriff said that what we haven't seen yet are the subsequent deaths, like after the World Trade Center, what got into their lungs is going to cause the first responders to have.
And all
more
those
deaths.
chemicals involved in, all the building products that went up in smoke, literally. So, I mean, I just think, you should take that message on the road.
I agree with you. I mean, Jackie and I talked about that, and we feel that we're not honest enough with the board about what we know. And this is a step. I got a couple of other presentations behind this they're all data driven. It's not politics. This is just.
Would you rather have this at a board meeting than at the steering committee? I mean, we should.
Both.
I'll go on the street corner if you want.
Yeah, really.
No, and also you could do it if you want to do it at your council meetings, we can also support that.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line, and I can't ever say it because Jackie says everybody says it's doom and gloom, but society is not going to be the same. I have a grandson. It's hard to believe. And he has no future. I mean, 30 years from now, it really is gonna be a mess and conflict and all kind of stuff.
So I was listening to on Hidden Brain, they had, which those are always fascinating, on this very topic of how do you deal with a topic like this that's so negative. And the presenter was a professor in environmental studies who had to shift her study to the psychology of it because her own students were burning out and falling apart because they're like, good God, what's the use?
What's the
And
word?
literally, people have been killing themselves because they see there's no point. And so she said, we have to reframe this to, of course, this is bad. Of course, you can't fix it yourself. And of course, there are things you can do. So, if we don't have that piece of it that, okay, yes, we have a terrible problem. Now, here are some things that you can do.
But that's
And there are things that we can.
done enough, no.
We tried to, Barry, to your point, exactly. We tried to show that, and all of this stuff here is data driven. All of this is
Mhm.
data, not aggregate data from the census. This is all stuff from our projects that have generated data, that these came out of that. So this is not somebody's crazy idea like Michael Friedman, who wants to close the Marina Freeway, for God's sake. I think he has a stone dream in the middle of the night or something. And I'm
Tighter, isn't it?
back on coffee. But this stuff is all data driven, and Barry is right. It's about not only what we can do, it's what we are doing. And so we just want to get more traction on it.
Well, we'll put it up on our website
Well,
and we'll
couldn't-
also, you go to council meetings if you want.
Well, couldn't we even like have it on the General Assembly agenda? I mean, because that's a wide of public participation as well as legislators.
We'd love to do it, but we need board support to do that.
Really love the General Assembly to be upbeat and we can get Wally on there for an
Yeah,
hour talking about it.
But
Well, he's like Debbie Downer.
but this last page.
Come on, Jackie, this is.
You at home saw that, didn't you see that?
Cedric, for it.
We can talk about it.
Not only that, Jake can do it. Jake has a happier face than me.
Figure out like where the
He
right,
doesn't have grandchildren.
maybe it's an intro to what we are doing.
You do right before the youth panel.
So they see what a great future they have.
No, I really appreciate that. I mean, especially with the Bel Air fire example, you
Oh,
can
yeah.
really see what's going on and that it's in the county, on my county commission, we're talking about it. We're talking about the new normal. This is the new normal that we have to prepare for. And when our fire hydrants aren't big enough or whatever, these are the things we have to prepare for because it's going to only get worse. So, okay. I thank you, Wally.
Thank you, Wally.
Now we're about to depress.
Well, now Kim is.
Back in.
No, I'm gonna tell you what we are doing about it.
Yeah.
Right? Working with your cities. So there's two main things I want to let you know about. One is you do have on your agenda a MOU that is with LA County. And it is a direct install contract. And I've been talking to you a little bit about letting you know it's coming. But this is going then into neighborhoods and helping people change their gas appliances to electric appliances. And for those disadvantaged communities, it'll be free of cost. So they're going to get equipment and services free of cost. The disadvantaged communities in the South Bay make up, like area wide, it's about that we would be able to cover is about half of the South Bay, because it also includes pollution burden areas. So not just income burden, but also pollution burden areas.
Like El
So,
Segundo.
yeah, like El Segundo is with it. So it's very exciting. You have a copy of the MOU. There's just a couple of changes. We did have Mike Jenkins review it, our legal counsel, and the name was wrong. They have to put our name actually in the title. And there's like some typos kinds of things throughout, but other than that, it's what it is. It's a good grant. It's for $217,398. That's for a 4-year period. So what's going to be coming to the COG is about around 54,000 a year that we will then actually work with your staff and also community-based organizations to go and engage homeowners. And then the county is going to set up a concierge program to help the homeowner actually go through the full process and educate them on decarbonization. So it should be a great project. We're very excited about it and we're really excited. We also, because we asked for it, it's going to be available to mobile homes as well as all the other housing types. So that was, we know that we have a good population of that type of housing. And so we wanted to make sure that they were covered. So if I would like to get approval, recommendation for approval at board from you on that item.
With the understanding it's gonna slightly change. Because of
That one.
typos that were in.
Yeah.
It needs to have legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has legal review, but we haven't gotten them to agree to make.
Do
the
I need
changes.
action from the group or?
Yeah, we need a
I
motion.
move approval.
Question about the appliance. There is no county, state mandate
Correct.
yet.
Correct.
As of now, so people are still free to purchase whatever appliance they want.
Right.
And there's no
I'm-
legislation that
Right.
we're aware of that's gonna say otherwise.
That's, as far as we know, that's correct.
Okay.
We don't see anything.
New construction.
Okay, so then, did I,
There's a motion on the floor.
No
Need
second.
a second?
There's no new construction.
Second, we need a second.
No, it's not that. But this.
okay,
Any opposition?
This is
Any abstentions?
okay, so then the second thing I wanted to let you know is that we're also have been working with LA County on their business.
Before you do that, he was asking about appliances. Does this dictate?
No.
It's a certain appliance that you have to buy?
Yes, it's electric.
Electric.
Okay.
It's
But
electric.
Any
appliance.
electric appliance.
But it's not yeah, if you're going to participate in this program,
Right.
you would be changing your gas
Right,
powered
right,
to electric, right?
Right.
Okay,
It's a nice, it's targeted for those that live in homes that don't have the ventilation to offset the gas output, right? It's a health issue.
well, it's really for greenhouse gas reduction, from what Wally's talking about. It's really to get people to not use as much gas, natural gas.
But you were
So
talking.
it's like stoves and heaters and things that use gas.
Water heater.
Yeah, water heaters, things that use gas
Dryers.
dryers in your home, switching those over to all electric.
You're talking about targeting a specific.
The demographic is disadvantaged communities,
Okay.
But including air disadvantage.
including air, disadvantage being defined as both pollution burden as well as income burden.
Right.
Yeah. But, the homeowner has to want to do it, right? Take
Right.
advantage of it, get the equipment, understand how it works in their homes, what that means. All of that, yeah. Okay, and then, any other questions on that one?
What, did you take the vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, they finished that, okay.
Sorry.
There's no opposition.
Okay, so the second one was the green business program that we have been talking about. And this is also through LA County, but this is through SoCal REN. And this is then providing businesses with services and equipment that they don't have to pay for or are discounted so that they can do energy efficiency, but also sort of this fuel conversion if they want to. And those offerings are going to be released next month. And the county is going to be working with a new provider. And then, of course, we'll be reaching out to all of you and asking if you'd like to do business walks and things like that, like we've had in the past, so that we can engage the businesses. What's nice about what we're going to be able to do is they are working with the California Green Business Network Certification Program. And so that's kind of a nice, in addition to the business saving money, they get recognition through that program. And then we would work with your cities to do things like city council recognition ceremonies and things like that. They'll get little stickers in their drawer, on their windows and things like, and different places that they can advertise themselves. But what's also very interesting about this is we have a green business newsletter that comes out quarterly. That newsletter only has a circulation of about 2,000, but has a 50% open rate. And of that 50% open rate, most of the people are clicking on all the businesses that are listed at the bottom of that. So businesses and the general public are really interested in this work with the green businesses. So I'm excited about that. There's no action on that item, but it's just a heads up, and then we'll be coming out to you.
Excellent work.
See, if Ronson or Britt, do you have a senior services update?
Well, I will defer to Ronson with a great apology that I missed the last meeting, and Ronson rose to the occasion along with Aaron, right?
Yeah.
And we're so glad to have Aaron on board. I've been negligent in working with you all. I have many irons in the fire, but I pledge to improve. But I'm assuming the meeting went well.
Yeah, meeting went great. Thanks, Britt. Yeah, we had Torrance present on their senior services. And then Aaron we did a little survey and Aaron presented on the survey results in terms of what we look to do in the next year. I think everyone on the survey mentioned that they would like to see us take on some sort of proactive project with the senior services working group. And some of the topics mentioned were emergency preparedness, mobility. I think those were the top two. And so we'll be looking to do some programming around those top two kind of topics in the coming year.
Okay, and now we have the update on local travel network and e-bike safety. Did you want to report on the working group meeting?
Yes, sure. So we had a working group meeting with our active cities two weeks ago now. The cities that were there were Carson, El Segundo, Redondo, Venice Beach, Mosa, and Inglewood. So some cities are actively implementing the LTN and others just interested and wanted to listen in. And so we had some very good discussions. One of the major takeaways is that cities who are struggling with capacity to move forward with LTN implementation have requested help from the COG. And so we will be putting together an RFQ to try to get a bench of consultants, and that lineup of consultants to be able to exist in cities with planning and design.
We'd be interested in that.
Yeah. Movida and Carson and any of the smaller cities would likely need our help with that.
I was gonna say, it's not a slam dunk, because what we want to do, it's gonna take us a while. We have to figure out not only what your requirements might be, but also that your lawyers are on board. Because we'll get to this and then the lawyers will say, no, we have to do our own process.
Luckily, we have the same lawyer.
Oh, this is good. Okay, great, okay. Go ahead, Anna, I'm sorry.
Yes, we also discussed making
Well,
updates to the LTN
from-
framework that has been
Used to be like.
public on our website for quite a while now, but
Okay.
it's helpful, but it's not
That's-
comprehensive
that's-
enough. As cities have started to implement, we've learned a lot of lessons about, how much it actually costs or what kind of ADA issues we run into when we're trying to build designated NEV parking. So we're gonna try to update that playbook and then also get that evaluation of the El Segundo pilot.
That was it.
That's a lot.
But yeah, we talked about safety too. As much as the LTN is about sustainability, altruism is not a very good selling point to residents of communities. Like, what do you mean I have to give up my car to use a micro mobility device? And so really approaching it from the safety standpoint is what city staff felt like was the best approach to getting people to use alternative means of transportation. Yeah, a lot of good takeaways from that meeting, and I expect that we will reconvene as needed.
So we're looking at, you probably know this, Eshelman as one of our major chunks, which Eshelman is wide enough to land a jet on. And I've yet to find anybody who knows why, but it's been there a long time, and the street is very wide, and it's mainly just residential, like single family residential like that. So it doesn't make any sense. And so we would like to use traffic calming measures. Well, that phrase, of course.
Yeah, you can't use
out. And we're not gonna put speed bumps on it, because those are a disaster. We know that. So if we can combine these two issues, well, multiple issues, safety, mobility, and the ability to have an environmental impact, it increases our chance of being able to sell it to the community. And so far, everybody that I've talked to has bought off on at least one of them. Like, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense.
I love the school, across the school.
Yeah.
Study happening, recommendations have come out of that to put in traffic calming
Yeah.
on Eshelman and around. So approaching that from a school standpoint, I think we'll get the buy-in from the parents, especially.
Great, thank you. And then you already heard that we don't know where our SS4A grant is. General Assembly. You want to give a progress report?
Sure. So on the fundraising side, we're almost at our goal. We've raised so far 55,000, either cash or in-kind sponsorships. We are still in the process of developing our program. One of our prospective speakers who has not gotten back to us yet would have been perfect following up on Wally's presentation. He was David Wallace Wells. Fingers crossed he still will answer his emails, but he is a New York Times author, or the New York Times. I forget the name of his book, but it's a climate alarmism.
The uninhabitable earth.
Yes, thank you.
I Googled it.
And it's very eye-opening and just a different take that the carbon that's in the air, for example, doesn't just disappear, it stays there. And so it really just makes you think about this all differently.
How about if you write an executive order?
So we have a meeting today with one of our speakers,
Mike Madrid.
Mark Madrid.
Oh.
We will be having a youth panel like we've discussed in the past. I think we're going to tap into our younger staff and our Civic Spark Fellows. We will be having a video of our former chairs, kind of talking about their experiences with the COG. And we're going to have some fun birthday party celebratory stuff as well. So it's going to be a combination of reflection on what we've done over the last 30 years and what cities need to be looking to do over the next 30 years. Anything else? Ready to check?
I was.
If you have an RSVP, register, please.
We decided that also we're gonna, for those former chairs that are no longer on our board, we are gonna be paying for their lunch. So that they don't have to worry about that. And I think the ones that have responded are enthusiastic. We are gonna have some fun things. For example, we're getting a picture booth. So, yeah, so you'll be able to take pictures for them. It's sort of a birthday party general assembly this time. So hopefully you'll.
From the 90s, like 90 theming,
Yeah, whatever you did in the 90s.
whatever you did in the 90s, if you could.
Okay, so we crossed our fingers and tried something new, which was an orientation meeting for your city staff. We realized that, I go and I meet all the new elected officials and I sit down with all the new city managers, but the city staff, unless they're a department head, really probably hasn't interfaced with the COG. So we sent out this thing to city managers and said, please distribute. And we had over 20 people?
Yeah,
It
we
was
did good.
unbelievable. We were so shocked and they loved it. We presented about the COG and everybody was here and they really thought it went very well. We thought we'd do it twice a year. Do you want to say anything more?
I was just gonna say, what was nice also was a mix of departments.
Yeah,
So like each of our staff sometimes just interacts with like one group, right? Ronson with Home Services staff, I work with like planning, David transportation, and so they were all there. And then they could also kind of talk to each other about our program. So the idea was that they could learn about the COG, but then it also helps us do our job better, right? Because then when we call them up, they know what we're talking about. They have familiarity with us that sometimes new staff don't have, or they forget because we haven't talked to them in a while because, whatever. But I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, we were shocked that.
I was regretting it when I was putting together the PowerPoint thinking, gosh, nobody's gonna come. This is a terrible idea. It turned out perfect.
Yeah, it really worked well. Okay, next is David on the office space.
So we are in the kind of final cost gatherings for both the expansion proposal for this space and then the Van Ness space that was approved. And so the board did give us direction to move forward with the Van Ness option. The whole idea to get the costs for this space is to be able to still negotiate the best price out of the Van Ness option. And so I think we will have more updates probably next month, kind of concrete schedules, but and we'll be bringing back after our legal counsel to review everything, but the goal will be to have a smooth move from this place to the next one. It's gonna be tight, I think, one way or another. This lease is up in June,
30th.
at the end of June. This space took about 8 months to build out. If we're lucky, the new space will be open, but we may have to be remote and have off-site meetings at one of your cities, potentially in the summertime. But we'll keep you posted on all of that. Kind of it, I think, at this point, still kind of preliminary, but
Any questions? Rodney, Vinny, you all get released early today.
I do my best. There is one thing though, that needs to be brought up is Jackie's evaluation is due April.
By April.
In April, so I think I'm gonna recommend that we do exactly what we did in the past. That we have the questions and the whole thing sent to us. And we will evaluate and send that back. So unless there's anything else, any other ideas. But I would like to hope to maybe get this done by the end of March. So I think starting now, we could probably get about back in and done by the end of March.
So just using last year's,
I think we ought to just use the same.
And you'll send it out?
I don't usually
No,
do it.
I was gonna say.
last time, I think I sent it,
Okay.
the chair asked me to send it out, so.
Okay.
Still go ahead and send it. Okay.
David will have it pre-filled.
I was gonna say, keep it, let's see on
Check
iPad.
all the right boxes. Okay, anything for the good of the order? No? And you guys want to get out of here? Huh?
Yeah.
We're adjourned.
Ah.
I actually do have one thing to put the record,
Donation stuff.
from the county. The county has started their solicitation for Measure G task.
The office went on mute. We can't hear you.
It basically will be a task force to inform how things roll out. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Measure G, that's,
Do each of the supervisors make the appointments?
Yeah, but there's an application process.
And how many do they make?
It might be one. I don't know. It's not very many. It max two. I think it's pretty sure it's. So, but everybody has to go through application process through the county, and then the supervisor gets the point. Yeah, so that'll be a big deal coming up.
Right.
That's a good room to share that way.
Yes. We all thought it was a terrible idea, as did your boss.
You said it.
Yeah, everybody.
Say